the louder you are and the angrier you are, the more divisive you are, people seem to be drawn to that, which is something that obviously needs to be dismantled. Statistically, it's always shown when there's more women at the table, it's just more of a success rate. There's more peaceful negotiations, there's more negotiations, there's more better communications, whether it's in a business or whether it's in politics or in the home, or, statistically, it's always better when a woman is at the table. So I firmly believe that in politics. And it's still only when they said there was a wave of women coming in at the, with the midterm elections last year here, it was still only 20%. It's hardly a takeover, and yet the media just created, it's still very much a small percentage that actually is represented by women. I sort of thought I knew how these systems were in place and how they worked and the agenda and how corrupt the system is with money and so on and so forth, but I really didn't. I was like, oh, it's so complicated, and it's complicated for a reason, to try to, often suppress voters. And after this, I shot Mrs. America, which is a 9-part series for FX about the feminist movement in the 70s. And it was just interesting to see these two, in a way, kind of companion pieces about reverse engineering historically how we got to where we are today, which was irresistible, and that current political state. I thought I knew about the feminist movement, and I was like, oh, it's such a complex story. So it was a really interesting year creatively. I've been fascinated with it and tried to figure out where I stand on it, and learnt more and more about feminism as I've gotten throughout my 20s. I read The Feminine Mystique in my early 20s, and that was quite a watershed moment to read that. Obviously, seminal book. But again, doing Mrs. America was really like, oh, there are so many parts to this story, and it's sort of a largely forgotten part of history, this movement in the 70s. We really stand on the shoulders of those women. Wielded so often, it's such a part of the tools of the media, and Jon is so great because in the film, everybody is lampooned, Republican, Democratic candidate, pundits, whomever, rural people, city people, and it's really the system as a whole that he's exposing in the agenda. So I felt it was just really refreshing to have that. The theatrical quality that the news has now is so out of control, if you will. And that's how people lean toward when they're trying to vote, when they're trying to get information, where these sources come from. I think in America, it's very much, there is a certain sort of charisma, I feel like people gravitate toward for better or worse. And that seems to be an overriding draw card, if you will. And I don't agree with the charisma of certain candidates, obviously, I have my own, opinion about that. But it feels to be even, it's larger than life here, the politics. And what it seems to be nowadays is that what it seems to be veering into is sort of the louder you are and the angrier you are, the more divisive you are, people seem to be drawn to that, which is something that obviously needs to be dismantled and examined, why people are so drawn to such sort of ugly rhetoric rather. You'll do better with fear than I will with shame. A perfect line like that, I feel like, is such a great example of democratic politics gone wrong. And then the hilarious scene where they start to analyze you going low, how low, incrementally low, but I go a little bit higher and then lower, and all these sort of catchphrases and political slogans and things like that, and how they've sort of taken on a kind of ridiculous level of importance. And so that I feel like that was a very I remember laughing so much at those scenes, reading them, thinking, oh, that just pierced right to the truth of what they're actually of what's being said. And that's so brilliant with humor, with someone like Jon, who's just so sophisticated with that, of wielding that knife so well. So